Hello and welcome. This is BQ Prime. I am Agam Vakil taking you through today's trade setup. We have a lot of weakness globally, and there is a likelihood that that could seep into Indian markets as well. To give you a roundup of the benchmark indices abroad, US specifically, we have seen weakness. So we are looking at a decline of around 1.3 to about nearly 1.9% across the major indices. Dow Jones specifically down 1.3%, and the Nasdaq that's down around 1.9%. So we are looking at some amount of weakness seeping in, but there is a reason behind it, a specific reason. So let's talk about some of those macroeconomic factors as well. And in terms of that, we are looking at a dollar index, which really hasn't moved too much. But when it comes to the WIX, and despite the fact that we've seen weakness across these indices, that also is down. But it is the US 10-year yield that has inched up to 4.8 now, and that is at its highest levels in the last 16 years. And that is also a little bit of an indication as to where, well, at least the participants of the US market see the interest rates going through, and that's likely to have caused some amount of weakness. Resulting that we are looking at least the gift Nifty indicating a 100-point decline at the moment. So we're looking at about a cut of 0.6%. The real question is whether or not we actually see a little bit of catch-up trade as far as the Nifty is concerned, and thereby the rest of our markets. But for now, we certainly are expecting a weak opening. The covering will completely depend on how Indian participants see Indian markets vis-a-vis what's happening globally, and we'll take things forward. And speaking of Indian markets, we're going to talk about very quickly what's happening in the futures and options space. Now, today we have the Bank Nifty weekly options expiry, so naturally a lot of focus is going to be around the Bank Nifty, and as we've been talking about over the previous few days, it's the 44,500 mark which remains key, and that's around where we're continuing to see those indices move around. The Nifty, of course, has seen fresh shorts, and the real question is, are we likely to see another bout of short covering? In fact, that's the question that remains. But for now, we certainly have seen a more addition towards the short side, with 7.5% added in open interest, and the Bank Nifty futures have also seen a decline of OI to the tune of nearly 2.6%, and that means some of your very previous longer term dated options are seeing longs unwinding. In terms of the range that we're keeping an eye on, that continues to shift, but this time we've seen a shift 100 points downwards. So max OI between 19,700 and 19,500 put. So we're keeping an eye on those options, and as one may expect, that those are the very same options where we're also seeing a lot of addition in open interest. As far as the Bank Nifty is concerned, and this is a little bit crucial because here the range is broader, surprisingly, given that it is the expiry. But there's another reason why, is that potentially participants could be expecting some amount of volatility as far as the Bank Nifty is concerned on the day of expiry, that is today. So we're keeping an eye on a 700-point range. It's a relatively broader range going into a Bank Nifty expiry, at least keeping in mind what's happened over the previous three to four expiries. That said, as I've mentioned, 44,500 is going to likely be the most crucial level to watch out for. This is as far as the markets are concerned at the moment. Let's also talk about all the stocks which are going to be in focus, and we start off with the big FMCG company, something that a lot of investors have been waiting for a really, really long time, Nestle. The board will meet on October 19 and will mull a stock split as well as a second interim dividend. Dividends will keep coming, and we all know that Nestle India does play very, very heavy dividends, but it is the stock split that is actually going to play in favor of this particular stock in today's day of trade, so watch out for that. This is certainly a big one, something that a lot of investors have been waiting for a really long time. Moving on to Avenue Supermarts, we've had the second quarter updates as well here in terms of business. And in fact, it's a healthy one, at least as far as the top line growth is concerned. A near 20% growth. Well, 18.5% to be precise, is what the revenues are coming through as far as this quarter goes. And the total number of stores standing at around 336. The positive is that growth continues for Avenue Supermarts, a stock that is still considered to be a very expensive one. And I reckon that we may see some resistance in a sell-off considering that strength as far as that top line number is concerned. Moving on, we also talk about Adani Enterprises. So Adani Enterprises has an update here, and where we understand that Abu Dhabi-based IHC Capital Holding has raised its stake to 5.04 through open markets. Again, a positive as far as consumer and participant sentiment is concerned as far as Adani Enterprises is concerned. So a lot of investors will continue to show confidence. That is always a positive. We move on to Hindustan Zinc then. And of course, don't forget that AMG Media Networks is a disclaimer here. This currently owns 49% stake in Quintillion Business Media and the owner of BQ Prime brand. AMNL has entered into an MOU to acquire the balance 51% stake in Quint as well. Post-acquisition, Quint will become a wholly owned subsidiary of AMNL. So, well, that's a standard disclaimer that we need to address. But we move on to Hindustan Zinc. And the company will be split into three entities, that is zinc, silver, and recycling, according to the chairman of Vedanta. And well, we continue with the Vedanta story as well, since it has been in the news of late, where the chairman has said that the company is on course to repay most of its $6.4 billion debt in January and August next year. This will also augur well for the stock, considering we're finally seeing some amount of commentary coming in as far as the debt reduction is concerned. The remaining debt will be repaid, the management says, via strategic sale of steel and iron ore companies. That's as far as Vedanta goes. We move on to IDFC First Bank, where we understand it's launched a QIP with a base price of 94.5, and the board has approved raising funds of up to 3,000 crores on July 29. So that is something that will come through now through the board approval. And finally, to talk about a handful of stocks on account of large orders coming through. So we have RVNL, which has in fact been on the momentum scanners of late, and the company has bagged 444 crores worth of orders from Himachal Pradesh government. And the other one, which also stands out, that's Titagarh Rail Systems, which has also been on the momentum scanners of late, which has bagged an order worth 857 crores from the Gujarat Metro Rail to manufacture 72-gauge metro cars. So, well, these are some of the stocks that we are going to watch out for. And, that said, there's also plenty lined up as far as BQ Prime is concerned. So, starting off with Talking Point, we will speak to Sushant Bhansali, and he's the CEO at Ambit Asset Management. That's going to be a big market conversation going in today. Of course, as far as futures and options are concerned, we speak with Manoj Vailar of Religare Broking, and we also bring stocks in focus with Abhishek Kapoor as well as Atul Chaturvedi. These are managements of the two companies that we are going to talk a little more in detail about and find out what's really happening there. And then moving on to 11:30, we have Ask PQ, where we speak to Abhishek Jain and Nikesh Jain, who actually solve a lot of your viewer queries going in. And finally, in terms of the mutual fund show, we will be watching out for a handful of industry experts there, Sunil Subramaniam, as well as we speak to Ruchi Sanghe, in the mutual fund show. So keep an eye on some of those shows, and there's plenty to watch out for. But for now, signing out, this is Agam Vakil for BQ Prime.